Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Ari and Big Mike are proud to present the greatest podcast in the world. No snowflakes allowed, and summer is coming.
This is the podcast that was started by two guys on cigar night. So, Mike, what do we have for us today?
Well, we're going to talk about something serious today. So, as the world knows, that October 7th was the most horrendous day for Jews since the end of the Holocaust. 1,201 day. It was insane. And so what happens? There's a war, of course, Hamas is fighting Israel. And it's interesting that when you see like what's going on in Israel, you're wondering, why isn't it going on in America? There's several Arabs who are Muslims, Arabs who are Christian. There are people who are Druze. There are people who are, Bedouin, all fighting with the Israeli army against Hamas. Yet somehow or another, that's not translating to America. In America, according to the ADL, there's a rise of anti-Semitic acts, hate crimes against Jews, and it's risen by 400%. And over 95% of those are directly related to the war that's going on in Israel. It scares me, and it really does.
Perhaps it does, but the increase in anti-Semitic violence, especially from young people, should surprise nobody, because the universities have, for a very long time, chosen sides in the conflict between Israel and those who would attack its civilians. Because remember, this was not an attack on Israel in the sense that it was an attack on, like Pearl Harbor, where the Japanese during Pearl Harbor attacked American military assets. Instead, the terrorists who attacked families, they attacked a dance party, they attacked civilians. And Israel is responding by attempting to take out the terrorist organization that did this. Whether their attempt to behead this terrorist organization is the right strategy or the wrong strategy, the point is, it cannot be denied that their strategy is to take out a terrorist organization that is hiding behind its own civilians, hiding behind its own children, to keep on attacking Israeli civilians. Even still, academia has chosen sides, but they chose sides a very, very long time ago. I remember I went to college. I started four-year college in 1992 in my junior year. And I was kind of shocked even then, where you'd go to a professor's office and he or she would have posters supporting the Palestinians, as if the Israelis did not have a good cause at all.
I remember talking to somebody who was pro-Palestinian when I was a teenager. This was, 30-odd years ago, right? So we're in the 1990s. The Oslo Accords were just signed and yada, yada, yada. And he compared the Palestinians to the Native Americans. And I said, your mix, your comparison is wrong, right? I was like, there's a famous phrase from Golda Meir that everyone's heard. He says, if, the Arabs put down their arms, there'll be peace. And if the Jews put down their arms, we'll get killed. Like, I'm obviously paraphrasing. It's not the exact quote, but, you get the point. And it was like, that's the way the thinking was. Because to that point, the Palestinian people are, I'm still, get crazy, but there is no Palestinian people. It is a complete made-up thing. 60 years ago, you said Palestine, while Israel was even in existence, you were still talking about Jews, right? It wasn't until around the late 60s, early 70s that anything all of a sudden changed.
Well, the change for a very specific reason. The specific reason is because the KGB invented the Palestinian Liberation Organization. The KGB made Yasser Arafat who he was. And the thing about the KGB is they were extremely good at propaganda. And the university professors who supported the cause of destroying Israel were very often outright socialists or outright communists. And if they were not, they were still heavily influenced by the KGB. And when I've been paying very, very close attention to the university since I left university. In fact, I wrote this novel here. It's called Bias Incident, the World's Most Politically Incorrect Novel. And in the beginning of the novel, my main character, Jeff Jackson, goes to Tinsley College. It's a fictitious college. And he sees a protest going on at the college. And one of the protesters is carrying around a sign that has Star of David equals swastika. That was a common protest sign that was carried around university campuses every time the poor little snowflakes at the university wanted to complain about something. So if you've been listening for the past 30 years, you could have seen how George Washington University would flash onto its library with the projector that says "Glory to the martyrs," i.e., the people who raped young girls so badly that it broke their pelvises before they died. Glory to them. That is what the universities stand for. And one of the things I'm so upset about having been right about is that.
Wow, that was. I mean, listen, I'm not going to deny, all the things about the KGB and the horrors of it is, but I'm more wanting to talk about. Wow, I can't even go back to the topic that I want to talk about because that is so. There's so many feelings and thoughts in my head right now about what I want to say, but I'm so like. It's confusing to me, and I'll tell you like this. My wife and I were friends with this couple, where the wife is Jewish and the husband is Muslim. And I don't want to be friends with them anymore. And it's not because the husband is Muslim. Because when I spoke to this woman about it, she's like, I refuse to take a side. 1,200 Jews were just brutally murdered, raped, kidnapped, horrific.
Civilians.
Horrific things that have happened that you can't even put, you can't even imagine because that's how bad they were. And instead of denouncing it, instead of saying dude, that's disgusting, we got to wipe him out. That's disgusting. Whatever it is, whether you think that war or not is the answer, anybody who justifies it, you're done with me. That's simple. If you don't, listen, I get it. You can be pro-Palestinian, right? You can say, I want a free Palestine, but I'm against Hamas. It's do I think a two-state solution is a viable solution? Not anymore. Especially not with Iran and Russia backing up, this whole thing. And if you think for a second that Iran and Russia are not backing this up, then you're not paying attention. And here's the problem. The problem is that Europe is going to be on our side, and next thing you know, this has the potential to blast out into World War III, and people aren't even noticing. And the ones who are being talked about as crackpots, conspiracy theorists, the same ones that 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, talked about different stuff with Trump and whatever, and now they're proven to be true, or with the whole thing with the coronavirus, these guys crackpots, but then they turned out to be right 2 years later. We're forgetting that we're doomed to repeat history if we don't learn from our mistakes. So now, when we talk that 400% rise in anti-Semitic actions, and over 95% of those are based off of this war, that does scare me. There's so much going on. I have to defend my family. That is my first job as a husband and a father. And it's getting to the point where you're just it's making me nervous seeing all this stuff. There were comments in my kids' schools that, the kids' schools can't really do anything if it's a he said, she said argument. But they can make a general rule like anti Semitism will not be accepted. You know, like, but it's so hard considering the amount of crap that we're hearing.
Well, there was an interview last week, a former New York Times journalist, Barry Weiss. She grew up right around the time we did, actually a little later than we did, I believe in New York, in the old-fashioned liberal Jewish tradition. She grew up favoring a two-state solution. She was very pro-Israel in a liberal way, and she had an interview with Trigonometry, and she was talking about just how shocked she was to see the reaction and to see this rise in anti-Semitism. And I was telling my mother just last night, I don't know who is more upset in the sense that she is upset to discover that she was wrong all these years and the two-state solution may never have been a viable option.
Well,
And I'm wrong, and I'm upset in that, gosh, I was proven right. I really didn't want to be right. I really, really wanted to be wrong. And when the Abraham Accords were signed, I really thought that peace was on the table. I spent my life growing up thinking that there was no possibility ever between peace between Jews and Muslims. And when the UAE and Bahrain and Sudan and Morocco signed those accords, I thought, wow, I was wrong all these years. And I was so happy to be wrong. And now it doesn't seem that I was so very wrong. And all credit to those countries. I very much still give them credit.
well, I'm gonna give a couple of things there. Thing number one, and then I'm gonna end this on this. I just want to remind everybody that there was this document called the Balfour Declaration. There is a two-state solution.
And it was offered from the very beginning.
And Jordan was taken away from Israel for the Arabs, right? So now they have a two-state solution, go to Jordan. But Jordan doesn't want to take them. Actually, no Arab country wants to take the Palestinians because it's great for them as like, what's it called again? You know, in the media where, you know, it's like they constantly fight back and forth over stuff. Why can't I remember the words of it right now? Doesn't matter.
A distraction, a pretext,
No, it's just like if they get the world focused on the Palestinians, you know, nobody watches that. You know, it's like it's just ridiculous. You know, it's like all these Arab countries that won't take in the Palestinians kicked out the Jews. The only safe place for us to go was Israel. But you know, they don't care. They really don't. They don't care about the Palestinians. They say they do, but they don't. If they really cared about the Palestinians, they would take them into their country and somehow made it in. Israel did that several times over with several different groups because it just happened. Most recently in like 2016, 2015, they did it with the Sudanese who weren't even Jewish. They gave them refuge because of all the things that was going on in Sudan. Like, let's not forget that this is a country that is smaller, that's like roughly the size of Jersey, makes a tenth of the money of the year, but somehow has found a way to be support people anywhere in the world when things go bad. And even more so, at the end of all this, I'm saddened by the world. I'm saddened by the world's reactions to all this. I'm saddened and I'm hurt because like I have to fear for my life with certain things in Florida, in the United States, you know, in New York or California or anywhere else. Like I have to be afraid when I shouldn't be because of like the anti-Semitism that's rising up around the world. And that scares me. And I leave you with this last thought, folks. What are you doing to make this world better right now? Because the one thing that makes me smile right now at this point is that you're seeing Jews all over the world unite in ways that they haven't in a long time. You know, and I'm going to leave you with that thought. And I thank you all for listening. And, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, or whatever it is by you.